Welcome back to Biomes. This week we are talking about my favorite lake, Lake Baikal. There's always something with this fucking lake. So, Lake Baikal is a pretty big lake right in the middle of Russia. And since it's so isolated from everything else, it has evolved some pretty interesting stuff in there, in addition to just being super weird itself. You may have seen this diagram before, where Lake Baikal is like horrifyingly deep, like it is ridiculous. So it is over 630 kilometers long, as well as over 1,600, not kilometers, Jesus Christ, meters deep, which is very deep for an inland lake. It does have some pretty interesting stuff that goes around in the water and stuff, weird phenomenon that I have made a video previously on if you want to go scroll down and check it out. This one I'm talking more about biomes, so I will be talking more about the flora and fauna of the area, but just know that this lake is fucking weird, okay? And it has a lot of things that are not found literally anywhere else. So it has some of the more common stuff around the edges of the lake because that's not quite so isolated. So it has lots of plant species such as this marsh thistle, as well as what's the word? Cattails, that's the bitch. Yeah, it has a bunch of those, a bunch of things you would normally expect to find around the lake. It has a bunch of grasses and trees. There's lots of cedars around. This is the Baikal sedge, which is, I think, endemic to the relative region surrounding it. It also has a lot of medicinal and culinary plants growing wild around there too, such as wild onions, wild rosemary, and wild thyme, which is very interesting. It has also a lot of wildlife that we commonly expect to see around there, such as elk, as well as a couple different species of deer, as well as some smaller animals like lemmings and red squirrels. There's also some predators around there, such as the Eurasian brown bear, as well as European wolves, as well as smaller predators like weasels and red foxes. But those can be kind of found around a lot of the areas, especially around Russia. So those are kind of more common animals. Let's talk about some of the endemic things. So there aren't that many vascular plants, such as seaweeds and kelps, because most of the areas are too deep for it, but there are quite a lot of algae species, including this one right here. I don't know what specifically it is, but that one is actually invasive, and it is taking over and covering a bunch of areas with green sludge, so we don't like that. But there are not very many plant species actually in the lake, but there are algae species. There are also quite a few species of freshwater sponges. Most of them that are in the lake are endemic to that lake, so they're not found anywhere else. But sponges are animals, if you didn't know that. Lots of people think they're plants or something, but yeah, these guys are actually animals. A significant portion of the biomass of the lake is made up from these little copepods. So there's a ton of them. Again, there's a big bird flew past my window. A large portion of them are also endemic to Lake Baikal, so you can't find them anywhere else, but they are very, very common, and they make up a large chunk of the biomass and are very important to the food chain. There's also quite a lot of turbellaria or flatworms there, again with a lot of them being endemic to just there. And my invertebrate zoology professor last year said that actually the largest flatworm, the longest one ever found, was found in Lake Baikal, which is, of course. So yeah, tons and tons of flatworms. Turbellaria specifically are non-parasitic, but they do hunt, so that's fun. There's also a bunch of other invertebrate species there, including snails and slugs, and this guy, which is a giant amphipod. And usually, they're itty bitty, but these ones have a case of giganticism, and they're big motherfuckers. So yeah, amphipods are a type of crustacean that are found quite commonly around, but just not as big as some of the ones that are endemic to Lake Baikal. Again, because of fucking course. There's also quite a few fish species. There's some more common ones that can be found throughout other places, but there's also a bunch of endemic ones, such as the omo, which is only found in Lake Baikal and makes up quite a large part of the economy and like fishing industry around the lake for people who live there, because they're pretty common and they're edible, so people catch them and sell them. So yeah, very common, I guess, tasty, I don't know, I don't like fish that much, but yeah, there's quite a few fish species in Lake Baikal. Another endemic fish species is the Baikal oilfish, or the, I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong, just ignore that, Golomiankas. I'm going to say the oilfish, but there's a couple species of them, but they are, I'm pretty sure, all endemic to Lake Baikal. They look very weird, and these guys hold the record for the deepest diving freshwater fish in the world, because of course. So they can be found, I don't think at the very bottom, but pretty damn deep in Lake Baikal where they live, and deeper than any other freshwater fish found thus far. If there's another deeper one, it would be in Lake Baikal, but for now, and this is the deepest fish. If you can hear noises, it's my little sister's boyfriend cleaning our ducks, because that's what he does for work. But anyway, this is the Baikal sturgeon. There's lots of species of sturgeon around the world. This specific one is endemic to Lake Baikal. Sturgeon are overall very big fish, and so these guys are the biggest fish species found in Lake Baikal, and I'm a big fan of sturgeon, so I like them quite a lot. There's also quite a few waterfowl and other bird species that live around there. This is the Baikal teal. It is not endemic to Lake Baikal specifically. It can be found around a bunch of other areas, but it was named after Lake Baikal, along with a couple other Baikal bird species that some are endemic, some are a bit more widespread, but there are quite a few different types of waterfowl. And finally, we have our beloved, sad-looking, pathetic wet seal, the Baikal seal. I love these guys so much. Their eyes are adapted for that, seeing down right in the depths of Lake Baikal, where there's not very much light, so it is an adaptation, but they just look so sad and I'm obsessed with them. So yeah, there's always fucking something with Lake Baikal, which is my favorite lake. There's also, because it's so weird, of course there's conspiracies surrounding it, that there's aliens in the bottom, and secret government conspiracies, and giant monsters. Those are not true, and I don't get why people make up bullshit about Lake Baikal, because the actual shit going on in Lake Baikal is so much better and more interesting than any conspiracy theory.